Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Hi, this is Andrew Sabo, and I'd like you to join us for a time of humor, analysis, and all kinds of other fun stuff. Are you ready? Well, let's go for another Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And joining us this week from Awooga and TV Nopes and House of House, we have...
Andrew Tavin.
How's it going, Andrew?
It's going all right, hanging in there, trudging along, everything, trying to readjust to, people get mad if you say post-pandemic life, because they either say the pandemic's not over here, or they say it's not over in the rest of the world, but
Yep.
I think it's, this is the rest of our lives, so sorry to start off with that. If that's a surprise to you,
Oh
heads
my
up,
gosh. My life is happening right now?
Yeah, get vaccinated and figure out how you want to live the rest of your life, because here it is.
Here it is.
Absolutely.
It do be happening.
So, I connected with you over Twitter and threw you a weird assignment of, hey, you want to come on and talk about a conservative Christian audio drama from the 90s? Can you just walk me through, just from a high level, what that experience was like for you?
Yes. So I'll be honest. So I believe we met over email because I had been doing so kind of through the pandemic up until post-pandemic times. Hey, I already explained myself. So I used to do a stand-up show back in like 2015 with Griffin Newman called the Awooga Comedy Hour, and then we kind of brought it back as an Instagram live stream, but completely different. And I believe you reached out to me because most of the episodes are saved on Griffin or a few on my IGTV, but the first few weeks Instagram didn't let you do that. But you had saved a few of them.
He's a pack rat.
Right? It's just not...
Yes. No. Yep. You're exactly right.
I thought
Yep.
you were okay. For a second, I was like, "Was this someone else?"
No.
Cool.
This excellent fan. That
I
you
wouldn't
are
cut
not.
it if it was.
Yeah, I was a little concerned at first because you have so your Twitter icon it's like one of the Nova Corps helmets, right?
Yep.
Okay. I did not realize that at first. I had to there's always like this regular thing now in the world whenever anyone new online where you have to be like, "What's that? Is that a Roman helmet? Does that mean alt-right guy? Does that mean..." I'm sure you wouldn't. It'd be very weird to like watch something like an hour and a half of Griffin and me talking and just be like, "Oh, I just love the Griffin Guesses game so much. I have to get past their political opinions that Andrew rambles on about for 75% of the episode." But anyway, you very kindly sent me the first few episodes, which were not initially saved because IGTV didn't do that, and then you reached out to me about this podcast. Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I'm sorry, because it ended up taking a little while.
Not at all. I mean, that was as much on my end as yours.
Yeah.
I looked back and I was like, I think we first connected in like April. Now we're recording in September. It's fine.
Yeah. So
it's been a completely normal year, so I don't know why that could have,
exactly.
slipped through the cracks for so long.
Nothing's been changing.
No. It's all been boring as usual. But
But yeah, you mentioned you didn't know anything about this beforehand. That's the normal response. That's the correct answer. Is that no, I haven't spent, a large portion of my life, fueled in the background by a conservative Christian radio show.
See, no, I have. So being raised Orthodox Jewish, like modern Orthodox Jewish, and around in Charlotte, where we lived from like me being ages 5 to 15, the Orthodox community was pretty much Lubavitchers. And I have actually heard here and there almost a similar sort of thing of this, like, these little like audio kind of skits or whatever. I feel like I've heard sort of similar things or played like in school, because I went to Jewish school for like almost all of my K through 12 education, and I feel like I've or like played computer games that were sort of like Adventure in Torah Land or whatever, where you're kind of like it definitely
Collect these grapes.
Yeah, collect 2 of every.
Drag your son up this mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Press the button in time with God telling you psych.
Yeah.
I can't place a finger on it exactly, but I definitely got a sense of like, oh, this feels like a similar sort of thing. Especially one of the things in this episode where like the like very kid humor of like, oh, we talked to Jerry Berry Geraldberry, which like I feel like I've heard some version of like Yenta Schmenta Menta, where you're like, oh,
Yeah, where most of the jokes in this episode are just names.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Or
that's
voices.
supposed to be right. It's just like this person has a funny name and they sound not regular. Laugh.
It actually reminds me, I'm sure we'll get into more specifics about what each one was. It actually does remind me a little bit of in high school I was hired twice, I think only twice, to write sketches for bar mitzvah videos. They'd be shown like at yeah, they'd be shown like at bar mitzvah parties. Like one of them was like the kid's older brother was hosting like a Deal or No Deal type thing, and the joke of it was that he didn't, I'll tell you, he didn't do as good a job as I would have done as host, and he actually didn't want to be host, and the mom was like, no, you should be in the video. So I was just one of the girls. I had like a wig on or something holding the case, and the case, it was like, the joke of it was like, oh, you're which case do you want to pick? And he picked like he picked one, and it'd open up, and then the slideshow of him with his camp friends would show up, or a different one was the slideshow of him with his family, and the host would say like,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't a dollar amount, that was just a slideshow of your camp memories. That's weird. And it reminds me very much of like the Jeopardy sketch in this one.
Now, that's a surprisingly relevant anecdote.
Yeah.
I didn't expect for you to come in and
Endlessly
be like, look, we were talking about like a Christian Jeopardy parody. I have in my life partaken in a Jewish Deal or No Deal parody. Is that at all the same?
I also, the sketch also, so I'll probably plug I'm going to pack in so many plugs at the end. Sorry.
Hey, that's what we're good for.
Yeah, that's the Tavin promise. But I am working on this audio sketch show with another writer, Casey Turgeson. I've been working on since kind of early in the pandemic, that we're trying to get out as soon as we can. We're in the editing process and everything. It's just we obviously have had so many things, and it's there's a sketch in it that actually Griffin is in.
Shout out to Griffin Newman.
Yeah, Griffin Newman, which is no, because I now that I have a podcast, I feel comfortable because I'll mention these at the end, but TV Nopes, I feel weird when I try to get guests I don't know, because it's like a tough concept to explain. Whereas House of House, I'm just like, hey, it's a House Rewatch podcast, come do it.
No, we can't relate
come
to
talk.
that at all.
Yeah,
This is this is the easiest podcast to ask people to do.
Yep.
I really appreciate the difficulty for me, I have like my format where I have this long email that I'd send out, when I was first starting TV Nopes, that explained the whole concept of the podcast, and it was like 7 paragraphs long just to get a response. I was like, sorry, what is it? Just because someone sees that and they're like, the
Where's the
tweet with,
TLDR?
like, yeah, I'm not reading that. Congrats though, or sorry, I guess.
Yeah,
but the point
for
being,
us, it's always tacking in the just so it's clear up front. We don't actually we're not actually agreeing with the stances this show takes.
Yes.
Like, don't. This isn't going to be a gotcha where you come on and then we're like, yes, you are a sinner, sir.
yeah.
Here to expose you on this week's episode.
This week, now the Jew of the week. We're gonna try and convert him. Yeah, so one of the sketches. Yeah, that's the new. You can have that. So one of the sketches that Griffin's actually in, I don't want to give it away because
it's a sketch.
I'm
Don't give it away.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm waiting to buy the cow, man. Don't give me that milk.
I'll just say it's a game show sketch. That aspect is relevant. I think it's in the first couple lines, and so it kind of reminded me. It's funny because it's. Do you know what year did this come out?
1998. It weirdly aired October 31st on Halloween
Wow.
of 1998. So this was. Yeah, them being like, oh, on this, the most satanic of all days, we'll release an episode about the devil, but it's a comedy.
Are they not all about that?
There's a lot of arguments to be made about how the devil influences theology, so yes and no.
Well, the reason I went on that long tangent, full of plugs and asides, is just to say that whenever you get around to listening to Sound Snacks, listener, just know that I did not know about the Satan Jeopardy sketch when I wrote. Even though it is weirdly, it's not the same, but like, I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of it a little bit. That's funny.
There you go.
Great minds
Yeah.
think alike. You just didn't know that you both
Exactly.
had the same mind.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, we wouldn't book Andrew Tavin without expecting some digressions, tangents, and plugs.
Oh, absolutely.
These are the commodities we expect you to deal in, sir.
Yeah, there's a reason they call talking to me like experiencing a verbal nesting doll.
I mean,
That's
if that's
also
not a
the
goal
taking
to
care.
aspire to, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Nesting dolls are endless fun. It's just layer after
Well-
layer.
It ends at some point.
True.
So I don't know if we've actually said it on air yet. Thanks for all that, though, Andrew. That was some great background. This episode is number 413. It's called "The Devil Made Me Do It."
It's special.
We acknowledged that it was released on Halloween 1998. It was also it was written by Marshall Younger and Phil Lawler, who are two of like the standard writers on the show. And Marshall Younger later wrote about this episode. He was trying to recreate the success of Hidden in My Heart, which is a different episode that has 3 wacky parodies. And after he heard this episode, the one we're talking about today, he thought he had failed miserably and that the show was a disaster. However, listeners disagreed and voted this show one of the 12 funniest Odyssey episodes of all time. And Marshall Younger's response to that was, after reconsidering, I would put it in the top 200, maybe.
I like that. Is this guy like the Swartzwelder of Adventures in Odyssey or something?
I don't quite know what his deal is. I think he's still involved. So this show, for background, has been going since 1988 and is still going. And I believe he is still somewhat involved.
I will say, I was like, it's okay. So knowing it's from '98, because it was sort of. I guess it's for kids. Like, here's the question. Do you keep up with recent episodes? Do you ever do an episode on like the most recent one?
Yeah, the episode that airs before this one, we cover like the most recent episode of the show. It's real bad, and we do not have a fun time.
Are they talking vaccines?
No, not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Just backsliding into Eastern philosophy.
They weirdly. they weirdly skirt around like everything controversial they do in subtext, which is very
Evangelical
much
bread and
I was gonna say very much evangelical Christianity in its current incarnation is just like, yeah, what if we just like didn't acknowledge that head on? So like we're not going to like talk about the fact that like, you know, they're against gay marriage, but they're going to talk a lot about the importance of a nuclear family with a mother and a father.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing that struck me, they mentioned one of the kids smoking a cigarette. That almost.
I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Triggered.
Well, it's like on the one hand, you're like, wow, that almost feels like too real for this.
I agree.
I was very surprised, thoroughly shocked, because this kid is young.
Well,
It's not like they have adults or teenagers smoke on the show and other episodes and stuff like that, and it's obviously still painted in a negative light, but this guy sounds like he's like 6, maybe.
Yeah, I would have to go and confirm, but I don't think since the 90s, like, they did do a lot of smoking and a couple, like, drug or alcohol episodes, but I don't think they've done that for, like, 20 years now.
Well, that's
like, it feels like that was very much, like, the 90s, like, when the after-school special was, you know, dominating and whatnot, and they were like, hey, what if we just, you know, did that? Like, it feels like now it's, like, far enough on the outskirts, and kids are maybe more removed from that stuff that it would be weird to bring up. I don't know.
They're all vaping now.
That's true. That's true.
Do a new episode where they talk about them vaping.
Charlie
really,
tries banana cream vape.
Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna summarize like the segments. So if I should wait to mention this.
Yeah. Well, actually, on that, let's roll the promo here.
Okay.
Kind of set up the episode as it was promoted when it came out, and then we can dig into.
Just go nuts.
So did this air on like a Christian radio station? Like people would listen to the radio, they'd be like, get your kids. It's time for this.
Yep, it's nationally syndicated.
Okay.
So it on like Christian radio shows across the nation, you know, they air a new episode, you know, a lot of weeks, and depending on the station and how much airtime they're willing to give them, will rerun an episode every day. Mm-hmm. So it is, it's a lot.
They have made too many episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're approaching 1,000. All right.
Think about all the shows that you like that have made it like 15 episodes.
Yeah. All right.
Roll that promo, Dylan.
Temptation, it's everywhere. On the next Adventures in Odyssey, get ready as Kids Radio goes behind the scenes to expose the lies of Satan. He's busy making people feel hopeless, but no matter what tricks the devil plays, the key to victory is always close by. Find out how much power you really have on the next Adventures in Odyssey.
Wow.
Nothing beats the musical choices of these 90s era promos.
Yeah, no, they are.
I will say the production value is like, strikes me as pretty good.
Yeah, that is the thing maybe we compliment the most on this show is that, like, it's actually, like, well engineered.
It's really well made for the most part, and the quality is pretty good, and sometimes they really, you know, flex their chops and do something crazy, but yeah, no, it's more so the content and the writing that we end up picking at.
I do, like, as someone who, again, in addition to the bar mitzvah video stuff, who also had previously been hired to do like some like adversaries content, I do almost have to relate a little to the project of trying to make like a humorous thing where the humor is always going to be secondary to some message you have to deliver.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Like the whole like setup of like, oh, it's a game show where this, or like, oh, it's this like, Chris Hansen, Satan Sting catch. It's like very convoluted. It's very plotty.
Yes.
Except the last one. The last one too. That's like an award. It kind of like it genuinely. The other sketch I wrote was like had both a Cribs thing and a like America's Next Top. It was like American Idol, but for like singing the Torah portion. And the rabbi of the shul, who at the time the rabbi was this Israeli guy, and I wrote him as like the Randy Jackson character. So it's what's the thing is he says like, oh, good job, dog. It's whatever, dog.
Right.
And he's like, Andrew, I'm not going to call him a dog. And I'm like, it's not okay. Whatever. Fine.
What about sport?
Yeah. So I can almost relate to that, where it's like
Well, it's like so Paul McCusker is like the big creative force behind this show or whatever, and it feels like he was like granted a genie's wish, where he was like, I want to produce a successful show listened to by thousands of people, and the genie was like, okay, but it's going to be a Christian show on the radio. And he was like, well, I guess that's the monkey's paw curl in this whole thing.
Them's be the bricks. This is the only way that you can succeed is through listening to the radio in the year of our Lord 2021.
Yeah, that's
not an enviable position.
No.
And yeah, and the thing that I think exacerbates that whole like the weird production value, whatever, there are like actual voice actors that they are hiring for these episodes. Particularly of note in this one, Townsend Coleman is one of the voices. He's the voice of Satan. He voiced the Tick in the 90s Tick cartoon, along with the Ninja Turtle Michelangelo.
He doesn't have that much to say in this, right?
No, he really doesn't. I think he plays more than just Satan. He plays Satan in, I guess, 2 skits. I don't know. And then he also plays Peter. He plays the awards announcer.
Peter Griffin.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right, Lois. That reminds me of that time you scared Satan away by reading a Bible verse.
You got him.
I mean, you're
Wicked
getting...
sweet.
Wicked sweet.
That voice is getting dangerously close to their Bobby Walker, who is the bad Barbara Walters, I guess, riff, but like not clear.
Yeah, this one wasn't like.
None of the parodies are impressions.
No. They definitely should be. Maybe.
Well, I mean, if they were, I feel like it'd be that, like, classic, like, Looney Tunes, like, oh, kids wouldn't even know that this is, like, Phil Silvers. Phil Silvers is probably too recent to be, like,
right.
a Looney Tunes thing.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. Like, if they had done, for the first one, which is the Jeopardy parody, if they had gone, like, full Alex Trebek or whatever, it wouldn't have... Like, no kid is listening going, whoever's, the Walker Edmonston's doing a really good Alex Trebek impression in that one.
Yeah. Which I am, this might be a little morbid, but, like, I like to play, whenever I'm somewhere, I don't want to have an Alexa. Whenever I'm somewhere around an Alexa, I like to play Alexa Jeopardy. I guess we have an Amazon Fire TV that, like, can still do it, but it's, like, really slow and weird on it. But, I like to play Alexa Jeopardy, and they have, I guess it's just, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I guess he only says, like, this is Jeopardy. Have you played enough clues this week? You have new clues. I guess he doesn't say the questions anymore, which makes sense, because he passed. But now I'm like,
Right.
oh, of course. I was like, how much did he record? And I was like, oh, wait, it's just the
Just the
stand-in
intro.
lines. Yeah, there's not it doesn't even have like the bare minimum Jeopardy thing, which is right. They don't say like wait, or do they? Now I'm blank. I listened to this today.
So they do the what is.
They do say
like
you're right. They do say
Yeah.
like what is smoking a cigarette. Like they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, and they do the point values, and they do the
They have a daily double.
categories.
They have a daily
But-
double also.
Yeah, it's like, is the Daily Double the one that's like where they play a voice clip from the child's past?
They play. There's one where the category is like in Marcy's shed behind her house, and I'm like,
Right.
where is this going? I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
The-
Well,
It could turn so left at any point given that category.
I was like, so the first one, yeah, they're like asking, it's like Jeopardy, but it's mostly
Right, well-
demons.
it's called Guilt Trip Jeopardy too, which is like not even a first draft name for it.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not even trying. Like you're like, oh, we're gonna do a Jeopardy parody. What do we call it? Guilt Trip Jeopardy. We're sticking with Jeopardy. I guess that's not actually copyright, or we can because it's a parody. But we're just gonna put like two other words in front of it.
We'll
should be
highlight
like-
it, come back to it, does not come back to it.
No, yeah. The thing theologically that I found interesting about this is I was like, at first I was like really confused because it's like, okay, the demons are pointing out bad stuff she did, and she's complaining, she's protesting like, oh, but I apologized for that. And the lesson is demons will make you turn, and some of this is going to be because I think I find I think there's a lot of genuine differences between kind of like Jewish religious practice, and I mean, not that I say not that surprising, but a lot of people don't seem to either get that or they're deliberately obtuse about it. Like there's such an emphasis on practice versus this sort of like belief scale. Like people talk about, I think there's a lot of practicing Jews who are probably essentially atheist on some level, where being at least in Orthodoxy, because I don't want to like, this is how I grew up. Obviously, you know, Reform Jews, Conservative Jews, whatever, there's all sorts of stuff. People do different things. I can only say that growing up, and I don't, you know, obviously think this now, but there was sort of this sense that it's like, oh, people are less, you know, Jews are people who follow the mitzvot and who do specific actions. So it's like, it's inherently tougher for me to grasp when you start getting into these like theological suppositions that I'm gonna use a TV tropes term here, just
You're speaking my
which
language.
is yeah, okay, good. Oh, I have a podcast for you. It just went monthly.
Just the one?
Yeah, just the one. One per month now. It's this like, you know, there's this concept that's been characterized as like orange and purple morality or whatever versus like black and white morality, where it's something where it's like, oh, you know, in TV tropes they'd use it for like, oh, there's like an alien species who thinks that the worst thing you can do is sneeze and the best thing you can do is cough or whatever. I think that's a bad example. But where it's just something that's not even like, it's, you know, as opposed to like black and white morality, where it's just so different, where I listen to this, I'm like, so they're trying to make her feel guilty, because if they make her feel guilty and she'll turn away from Jesus because she'll think there's nothing she can do. But I hear that, I'm like, But if making someone feel bad about the stuff they did turns them away from Jesus, isn't that a lot of religion makes people feel bad about things they did?
I don't think that you're too far off there.
I was so baffled by this the first of the 3 segments for that exact reason, where I was like, their argument is that Satan makes us feel guilty, and then like if you feel guilty you won't confess your sin, and that's what will like drive you away from religion. And it's like, wait, isn't the whole argument that it's like in like Christianity that it's like, oh, there's like, you know, the Holy Spirit or whatever, like God's inside of you and that's your conscience, and then like that's why you feel bad when you do bad things, and you know those things should drive you to like, you know, confess those sins because you'll be forgiven. Like, I don't know, like it is just such like a, I don't even feel like this is a, like I think it's a weird representation of any sort of philosophy, but I especially like don't think it supports like their argument that they're, I struggle to figure out what the argument they are trying to make here is.
Yeah, and how this would serve it in really any way. I mean,
like it doesn't even, the like skit itself doesn't even have a, like, doesn't even put a pin in that. It's like the, like Connie, the announcer after it, going like, oh, you know, like, yeah, you know, the whole point of this is that like we have to like know that they're, you know, that we can confess anything and we're covered. And I'm like, oh, okay, but that was not what just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
that's like
just bullied the child for 8 minutes. Like,
yeah, that's like, it almost would have made more sense if like, I'm punching this up here, like at the end she should get to take a turn and it's like ways to salvation, or like thing that would make Jesus stop loving you, and it's like, what is nothing? Because I know that you demons can't bother me because whatever, I can confess my sins and Jesus will always love me. But like, but they don't do that.
No, that's honestly, that's how the other one kind of ends, where they like call the girl to the stand and she essentially does like that sort of a thing where it's like, oh, but like, let me underline, you know, why this is actually like what the actual good message is. But in this one, they were just like, nah, we're just going to like end on the note of, you hear that? You're worse than demons. You want to give me a cigarette? This is going on for another 23 rounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing where it's the second one to me is very hat on a hat, but the message is like very clear. Where the second one, they have, it's the court case of Jerry, Larry, Barry, like that's the one that every time I heard that I was like, oh, this is like
this
religious kids humor thing. It's like the only well you have to go to is like a long series of rhyming names that like a 2-year-old laughs at. So Jerry, Barry, Gary, Terry,
with the
then like
speech impediment.
That's exactly it. It's only there so that their like announcer, like the interview woman, can do like, you know, a weird voice and have a bit of an impediment here.
Isn't that like an SNL character that was on Weekend Update?
Probably. Like it feels like, yeah, it very much feels like that. Where it's just like, yeah, what if just the R's sound like W's, and that's funny.
Got him.
Yeah. Got him. Rack him. Yeah, because that's the one where it's a court case where Jerry, Gary, Larry, Jerry is on trial, and his defense is... This was another one where it does snake, but then it comes back in a way that kind of works. But again, it's too much. It's because he's his defense of like, and it's a real crime. Like they pick something, was like breaking into someone's home and stealing.
He stole a VHS player. He put it in his pants.
Yeah, he broke it. The thing that they say.
He must have been wearing Janko jeans. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
reminds
it's-
me. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say it's 98, so fair.
Yeah.
Oh, fair. Yeah. That reminds me of what's the joke in the Krusty Gets Canceled. I think it's Krusty Gets Canceled. Where oh no, it's Day of the Jackanapes, where Krusty is doing is like going through his whole show, and he's like, it's like from his first appearance on some equivalent of like Sid Caesar's show of shows.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, I made a boom boom in my pants. And he's like, I got kicked off the air. Turns out you couldn't say pants. Like, it almost feels like right on the edge of 3 to 4-year-old and 5 to 6-year-old humor if you're allowed to shove something in your pants. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. The whole thing. He sets up that he stole $100,000 worth of stuff across multiple houses, and I think the only reason they say that is so that the announcer woman can say jewelry and stumble over
A
it.
bunch. Yeah.
Like it is just they're all so like Jeopardy is like it's the Guilt Trip Jeopardy is a bad Jeopardy parody, but it's still a Jeopardy parody.
And the voices
This
of
one
the
is-
demons are kind of fun. I will give it that.
Yeah, sure.
they do. That's the kind of thing where I was like, yeah, they got people with talent to like do different goofy voices. Like, all right.
Yep. Yeah.
But
And
kind
the-
of. I mean,
Sure.
They were.
This-
They gave them the most bare bones script and said, make wine out of this water.
The second one though is so it's a riff on 2020, which is like a news show. It's just like a 60 Minutes or whatever, like an investigative journalism show or whatever. But they call it 2200. Is there a joke I'm not getting?
Not that I got.
I didn't even
Like-
realize. I had not even realized they were doing 2020. I did. I just
The
totally
only-
it didn't even.
The only
just
reason I
share with me.
figured it out is because I like in the episode description they have it written out as 20/200. But when they say it on the air, it sounds like they just say 2200. And I'm like, what is this show called 2200? What is the riff they're trying to do here? And then it's like, yeah, Hugh Down they call huge gowns, which is like I don't know. It's an okay joke. Like I
did not
actually
even
like it's
realize this.
lazy, but I think that one is kind of funny, especially from like a kid perspective of like once again, no kid's going to know who Hugh Down is, but like huge gowns, sure.
Okay. That's kind of fun.
The thing, because the guy is like, oh, I did it, but Satan tempted me, and they're like, could this defense hold up in court? And then they go off on this thing to figure out if Satan has ever tempted anyone, and they talk to Satan's lawyer, which like, does Satan? What? Well, first off, someone could
Satan
be
wasn't
like,
available for comment,
No,
so
no.
it was they go to his lawyer.
He's out of town.
which there
His
had to
lawyer's
have
name
been.
is Bud.
If only they didn't need to probably rely on their lawyers so much to like sue a school district that told their kids gravity is real, then
Well,
they
but like this is the thing with like 90s Christianity, like evangelical Christianity was like all about like taking shots at like lawyers. Like there's this whole weird subculture, at least in this time, where like they're constant like there's so many weird there's
It's
so many
just
weird
the old
things.
like lawyers are crooks bit from like 70s and
Right.
80s television that those people grew up and they made their own stuff and it now evolves into this weird tangential half
I
joke.
think you probably also in the air you have a few things. You've got the like OJ, like who are some of the most famous lawyers, like OJ's defense team in the 90s, probably, right? Like lawyers
Yep.
who you know by name.
Ron
and,
Kardashian.
Yeah, I mean, it turned out Dershowitz was the devil. Parody statement. Don't sue me. But the other big thing was the bad lawsuit panic, which turned out to be like
Right.
which I listened to. There's a Citations Needed episode about this, and it's fascinating because it's the kind of thing you remember, and it's one of those things I think you're wrong about. Also did an episode about it because it's something that's just so misremembered in the cultural memory.
Is it the Starbucks coffee? Is this what we're...
The McDonald's coffee. It's Stella Lineback.
McDonald's.
It's
Okay.
all of these. You'd hear all of these stories about, these crazy lawsuits. People are suing companies. I remember at one point hearing about these as like a 5th grader and being like, it'd be a good job would be like corporate defense attorney because all these people are trying to sue these companies for stupid things, and you'd make a lot of money, but you're doing something good because they shouldn't sue them for this. Like, I remember thinking that, and you look into this and you're like, all of these were legitimate cases, and there was like not a single one instance where someone got $1 million for something that was actually nonsense. But this was all propaganda, and of course it was, because it's to make you think that suing companies is bad. Like, of course.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and, like, of course, like, super conservative, very capitalistic Christians, like, just took that and ran with it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there is a legitimate episode of this show, of Adventures in Odyssey, in which a child is, like, climbing on a roof and falls through a skylight, and then it's all about, like, him hiring, a scummy lawyer to, prove why he was actually not at fault and, like, shouldn't, it's the business owner's fault for putting in a skylight where he was going on the roof he was going to climb on. And it's like, it's that exact thing where it's just like, yeah, for whatever reason, they just got on this bandwagon of, like, this is the thing that, like, we need to speak out about, to the point where it makes it into this sketch about the devil.
Yeah, and the whole thing, and it's weird that, like, so the prosecutor is the good guy in this.
Right, but he's the devil's lawyer?
No, that's a different guy. The devil has his own lawyer, and then, so they do the sting to figure out if which, like, I thought the devil was open about tempting people. I also he's a lawyer. Was the devil going to jail? Like, I don't like what's another thing they say where they're like, we're not talking about like a guy. It feels like the equivalent of like
where the lawyer says, like, they accuse him. He's like, what? You think like you're saying Satan could disguise himself as a snake? Next you're going to be saying he's got like horns and is painted red with hooves.
Yeah, which honestly, like, decent joke as far as the parameters. Of like, you're doing a microaggression to Satan. Like, that's like a decent, in the scheme of things, of all the context. What are you gonna do? And then he's like, but they do a sting operation to see that Satan really does tempt someone. But then that doesn't matter because you can overcome it. They do like where a guy wants a hot dog and they leave him and like, he's gonna grab the hot dog.
Hot dog.
Yeah, that was also weird.
They really make foot-long hot dogs? What did you think? It was incapable of fitting in the casing after 11 inches? Like, what?
There was some line of that I think was also funny. I can't remember it now, but
yeah, it's when he says, like, when she says, like, would you really want to eat a foot long or like a hot dog that's a foot long? And he just says, like, quietly, like, I'm really hungry.
I did, yeah. I actually thought that was genuinely funny. He was like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
He said, it's like, yeah, okay. Also, like, foot-long hot dog, you can eat 2 hot dogs pretty easy. Just condense it to one. There you go. Not a problem.
So the baffling part of this
save the buns.
is they put a mic in the hot dog, and that mic picks up Satan talking.
Yeah.
I actually thought that, again, game recognized game. As someone who's had to write within very specific parameters that anyone can see and try and find ways to put jokes in there, it cutting off and them going, and that's when the hot dog, the mic, like the reveal that the mic was hidden in the hot dog. Look, what are you supposed to do? Fine. Good.
Yeah. Well, and also you're working both in the constraints of a Christian kids show and also in the constraints of being audio only.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is
Not
as
easy.
someone who recently, for reasons I'll mention later, converted some sketches, many of which were originally written to be filmed, into audio format. You really have to like figure out where you're gonna just put in really good sound effects and where you're gonna have to say like, please stop eating my book. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I won't stop eating your book. Just to like make that work. Yeah, that and then the whole thing, the girl is like, the prosecutor calls her up, which if you imagine that as like someone's like, oh, my defense was like, you know, the FBI entrapped me because I didn't want to be a part of this plot, but they kept encouraging me even when I tried to pull out of it. And then the prosecutor just being like, well, I have a little girl here, and the FBI tried to entrap her into blowing up a building, and she didn't. So, like, it is wild to set up this thing of, like, you can... I mean, yes, sure, you cannot do it, but then why'd we spend all this time proving...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, to the point where, like, they go back in time. They have some unexplained way where they go and interview Adam and Eve.
Yeah, to say that, oh, the Satan in the form of the snake tempted to eat the apple, and you're like, that was before Jesus.
Right.
So...
How is this the relevant citation here?
Yeah.
Well, and then, yeah, she's running through then all the other people that they contacted, like, to get verify, like, to, you know, to back up the temptation thing. And she says, one of the people, she says, quote, God's own son, Jesus. And I'm like, wait, you couldn't get Satan. You were stuck with his lawyer, but you got a quote from Jesus?
Yeah. Well, then Jesus
He's a very
comes
given
back.
Individual.
Yeah.
Right, Jesus is in the next sketch then.
Yeah.
Because the next one is like a mess.
The
Next
next one
one.
is so... it is... So
This is a dumpster
we
fire.
We jump from Jeopardy is Jeopardy to 2020 becomes 2200, and sure, I guess it's like a weird show. It's weird to parody that generic of a TV show, but like, sure. And then it's just like awards show parodies. We're gonna call them the Slimy Awards.
Got him. Was this pre or post Nickelodeon Kids' Choice
That's
Awards?
what I was trying to figure out as well. Where I was like, I guess it's pre Nick sliming people on an award show, but
I
like,
mean, I'm gonna look it up.
it is dangerously
They should have
close.
just had those kid eaters, right? The secret cabal of kid eaters in Hollywood, just legit giving each other awards for all the kid eating they're doing, right?
Right. Yep.
That's
No.
The first event was in 1988, so this definitely could have been inspired.
Wait. And they actually slimed someone in '88.
I don't know that they slimed some. I don't have access to that.
This is what I need to
I'm gonna
know.
look up first sliming.
First-
First on TV sliming.
Is it
on
pre
TV.
or post 9/11?
Sliming. Yeah.
Was sliming a post 9/11 response?
I was
thing?
okay. Heavy. No, I don't. Oh, it thinks it thought I said first on TV slimming. So there was
The biggest
All right.
loser.
I think you can't do that on television was where it started. It says introducing the network's iconic green slime. So, yeah, you can't do that on television. 1979.
Dang, we've
So
been
this was
sliming
from- you
people
can't
for
do
a
this on
while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so in that instance, maybe this is maybe, Slimy Awards is supposed to be.
When's the Nick Kids Choice Awards?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Nick Kids Choice is like, what'd you say, Andrew? It's early 90s, but then...
Oh, no, it's 88 is when it started.
Okay, 88, but at which point did they combine those two things into one thing? Did that happen from the get-go? We might never know.
Yeah.
Lost in the archives. Also,
yeah.
2200, I googled that. It is it's the doctor's prescription number for being legally blind. So there you go. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But instead of 2020, 2200 means you're blind.
Too clever.
Yeah.
That's wow.
I was very surprised. I was like, this clearly can't be something, or maybe there's a joke, and then there's that.
Wow.
That
Okay.
feels like wow. Okay. Game recognized game. I feel like I also do that. I want something to be a pun when I'm writing something. So even if it's something no one will get, I'll do that.
You do it just for the sake of you. And that's the thing about Odyssey is that it's made for families, which is just an excuse for dads to tell really well-cloaked dad jokes and just slip them in as many places as possible.
So the Slimies.
Yeah. Can I give a rundown of not just in this scene, but throughout the whole episode, the demon names?
Yes,
because I
please.
think they're
Yeah.
trying to do like a C.S. Lewis Screw Tape Letters riff.
That was what I
think
got as well.
Is the like, hey, let's just like name people weird stuff, but like
They had
so
an Adolf in there.
Yes. So in this scene, we get Adolf Jerkball. We have Jezebel Mean Chick, Judas Bad Guy, Nasty Worm Bucket,
Wait a sec.
Filthy Pete Sludgeman.
I shouldn't have interrupted. I had to
No.
say Judas Bad Guy is my main and Guilty Gear Xrd.
Very important.
Sorry, I love
No.
I
No,
always have to-
it's right up there. I mean,
Yeah.
you were teed. You just knocked it
And then
right out of the park.
something. You want me to
The last one, and my
Oh.
personal favorite, is Lewd Grimelord.
Oh, Luke.
He's one of the Jeopardy contestants, and they just keep calling him Lewd.
Yeah, lewd that's a word that I feel like has really fallen out of favor in today's vernacular. We could bring back lewd.
It's also one of those where it's like a child asks their are they like it is one of those jokes that like similar to the smoking. I'm like, I guess we're fine saying lewd, but like that's I don't know. This show is so like stringent about stuff that weirdly saying the word lewd as a joke feels like is that a step too far? Like I don't know. I'm gonna. This show just has me in a bad mind space.
Mildly naked people.
Lewd Grimelord is my favorite Captain Planet villain.
There you
See
go.
that?
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
no, that's fair.
He's the one who cuts down the Amazon rainforest to convert to pornography magazines.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of trees
no.
just for boobies.
Well
Yeah.
well constructed. Oh man. But yeah, and the Judas Bad Dude and Jezebel Mean Chick are just like are maybe the weirdest ones in this episode. They're hosting the Slimies, but they're like the names are clearly like, oh, who are the two like worst people in the Bible who we can point to? And then let's just like throw on a superlative of like, Jezebel, a mean chick. And Judas, a bad dude.
Is Jezebel in? Okay, wait. When does because this is one of those things.
Oh,
where
that's some Old Testament. That you read the first book. You're in there.
But
She's in
is
there.
it? I don't recall where because I've like never. Okay, wait. Oh, you just get Jezebel when you look up. Oh wait, she's. Oh wait, who am I thinking of? Then wait a second. Jezebel was the daughter of Ethobal and wife of Ahab. But I thought she was. Who am I thinking? Oh, I'm thinking of Lilith. Lilith. Where's Lilith?
Oh yes,
Jezebel's-
Lilith is the one that's not actually in
the Bible,
I don't
but
know.
in the Bible.
right.
That's the one I was
The more
thinking
like
of.
mythological.
Yeah, who you fight in Shin Megami Tensei. Is a demonic figure, supposedly a she-demon. An alternative, she is presumed to be mentioned. That's a weird way to say is not mentioned.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I have a girlfriend. She goes to another school.
Yeah. Oh, my first wife. Ugh.
Yeah.
She is presumed to be mentioned she's presumed to live in Canada. In biblical Hebrew, in the book of Isaiah.
Wait, sorry, did you say she's presumed to live in Canada?
Because I have a girlfriend, she's presumed to live in
Oh,
Canada. Sorry, I was doing a
sorry, you were
Jezebel.
doing it in you were doing it in the same tone of voice as this other information you were
Okay,
reading off
no,
about
yeah.
Lilith, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry, is this some modern Jewish interpretation I
Lilith is
wasn't
mentioned
aware
in
of?
in the Talmud, but not. Yeah, Lilith is not mentioned in the Torah. Sorry, that's who I was getting confused with.
That would be weird for a Christian show to mention Lilith.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
But-
for episode 1000.
Yeah.
Who knows? They're still going.
The big special.
The big special. They switched to Judaism.
Yeah. So that's like the weird like game of this sketch is they're like trying to give an award to the best temptation, but then Jesus told Satan a Bible verse. And then they're like, the message of this one, I will say, is very practical compared to some of the others. It says, whenever something bad is happening, there's a Bible verse you can say that'll fix it. Which, I don't know about the methodology,
Yeah. In action.
but that's a very straightforward piece of advice.
This is how we deal with
Yes.
temptation.
I would say it is the it's the sweatiest of the sketches, but it has the clearest confusion. Like they put a button on it better than they do the other ones.
Oh yeah, well, and
Yeah.
it builds to the conclusion of they build like to the drama of like, oh, Satan is the best. Roll the highlight reel of Satan tempting Jesus, and then stunning turn of events, it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, and this is
And then they get duped, and they're like, "What? You're rolling the wrong tape!" Like,
Is there a tape of Satan successfully tempting Jesus? Was it going to be the Scorsese film?
yeah,
like right.
Yeah,
This is yes. It is right. It's this wild thing where it's like this is like it's
Snyder
their
cut.
2500th anniversary or whatever, and it's like regardless, like they're referencing like the other story, one of the other stories that they do one of these temptation scenes for is like Ananias and Sapphira, which is like a thing that happens after after Jesus is gone. We now do like the Ananias and Sapphira bit in the Bible, and so like it's a weird thing to like, did the demons not like, did they know about this clip and just remember it wrong? Or some guy pulled the wrong footage, but what was the right footage? Like, you'd think for the past, 2,000 years or whatever, they would be celebrating the time that they,
Got
tempted.
one over on
Like,
Jesus.
yeah, exactly. Like, got it to work. And instead, it feels like you would remember correctly whether, the, I don't know, Prince of Demons beat God's son.
I can't recall. Yeah, I'm blanking. Did Satan overcome Jesus and cast him into hell and take his place by God's son? I
just can't. The details are a bit fuzzy.
I'm blanking. I have to assume maybe it was supposed to be that they had some faked out clip, and then they uploaded the secret footage that they
Deep
took.
fake Jesus, loose
Deep
into
fake
Satan.
Jesus. Yeah.
They accidentally dropped the unedited cut.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, I also like. I do think, and cause I was gonna say the thing about all of these is kids would have no reference point for this.
Yeah, that's a very fair assessment.
To be fair, That's true of a lot of stuff you see in like cartoons when you're growing up, and then only later are you like, oh, that was like a reference to this. Like you don't even realize. Like
100%.
Oh,
And like
yeah.
I listened, like I'm sure I listened to this as a child and was just kind of like, oh, funny, and moved on.
Yep.
Like
I think that's exactly it. Just flip it over, play the other side of the cassette, and yep. Make sure you return it to the church library at least 2 weeks too late.
it's like when I listened to Car Talk in the car
Yeah.
when we were driving.
We're not. I mean, honestly, Car Talk and Adventures in Odyssey occupy a very similarly, strangely soothing place in my mind.
The thing that I just feel the need to point out, the voice of Jesus in this scene is Brian Cummings, who is he played the stove in the 1991 like the original Beauty and the Beast.
Interesting. Doesn't the stove have an incredibly deep voice? I feel like
Yes.
if I'm
I feel like the
remembering Be
stove
Our
is-
Guest, it's very large and intimidating and like
I think the stove might be like the smallest of named characters, but here he got an upgrade to Jesus a mere 7 years later.
It is wild that, like, you think, I wouldn't even know if some of these people now, because if people did something for Focus for the Family now, you'd be like, you're like, oh, it's a hate group. But, like, back
Right.
then, it was such a, and not to, like, justify it, obviously, but it was, like, such a different time where you're like, oh, whatever, they're Christian. We all think gay people shouldn't get married. And we all think this. And we all think, like, it was just sort of the, culturally.
Right, it was very much the monoculture.
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time.
And things, it is, like, wild. And, it's you really see it when you watch, like, sitcoms from, like, the 90s and early 2000s. Where you're like,
definitely.
oh, things have shifted so much. And,
Like I don't even know if like the number of times we see like sitcom characters say grace before eating. And it's
Yeah.
like, would that even land to like if a show put that in, do enough people watching the show relate to that to where it is like funny or makes sense?
or even, like, The Simpsons go to church every week. Like,
Right.
nominally as a thing. Like, you're, like, that
Yep.
feels so, like, out, so, and it's not because it doesn't happen for a lot of people in America, but it's now so splintered that you'd be like,
You would need to justify that the Simpsons church is one of the like fine ones and not one of the like terrifying ones.
yeah, you'd almost,
Like you couldn't just like you can't just blanket reference church. Like similar to us pitching this show, like you have to say like Christian with a bunch of qualifiers.
Yeah.
Because the default in people's mind is not like, oh, the nice thing that like my grandparents believed. It's like, oh, those people who are racist and hate people.
yeah, I mean, and that's like, sorry, like the wild thing where you're just like, I'm trying to think of another place the Simpsons could sort of regularly go to. If they were going like every Sunday, oh, what do people, this is part of the issue where you're like, well, what do people do? Where you talk about atomization and everything, where you're like, what do people do as a community anymore? Because unions are gone, churches are gone.
Notary is on its way out.
Notary?
Yeah, what is it that or Rotary?
Oh,
Dang it.
Rotary. Yeah.
Rotary. Yeah, I said the wrong thing, but what I meant was Rotary.
I was gonna say, I feel like notaries are still
Yeah,
very
no-
painfully
notaries-
present.
You need a notary. It is wild. Like,
My favorite community is the notary.
yeah,
Just go down there,
notaries.
hang out with people, get documents
should
signed
go
in
with
an
a
official
notary union.
capacity.
Yeah. It's really where I
notary
feel-
unions on strike. I can't get my birth certificate amended to include my adjusted height. I don't know. I don't think they do that.
They could probably make a quick
Yeah,
buck.
they have the power. The power of the pen. Yeah, no, so, I mean, for me, I grew up, in a religious Jewish community, and there was that sense of community. And I'm trying to think, like, if we didn't have that,
Could
I
The
don't know.
Simpsons go to their local cinema every week, or have we lost that one too?
They do at the end. They go do 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 do. Shh. The cinema. Well, cinema. I'm genuinely like, where could The Simpsons go? Because it would seem weird if they went to church.
Right.
But
They can't go to a bar because there are children.
No, yeah. I mean, Homer goes to the bar. There's no
Right. But like I'm saying, like as a family.
If I can speak to the motivating factors of going to church that do not involve church at all, I'm going to say the post-church meal at typically a restaurant, brunch-esque foods are standard fare, is a powerful motivator.
So you got Kiddush
so
on
like a
Shabbos.
family.
You go with shul. You got the Kiddush normally at the shul. There's a little little thing you go and you serve. I'm like I genuinely. And I said unions. I guess you don't bring your kids to They probably have events, like picnics, like a union picnic.
Bring your kids a union.
Right, I was gonna say there's probably a union picnic feels
That seems
right.
good. We need more union picnics.
Yeah. I'll look into my local parks and see when the gang's coming around.
The thing is, you need a small town for a picnic, and you can't have a union in a small town right now.
Yeah. I feel bad also for because of so much media, that the first thing my mind went to was a joke of like, oh, the union having their picnic, and like the mob's also having their picnic, which Simpsons already did with like the police and mafia family picnics right near each other. But yeah, the reason we started was because we were talking about the Simpsons going to church. Oh, and going to church in general. That's just like a wild thing that you feel like you'd barely see. Or you see like in Kim's Convenience, which is specifically like, oh, they're Korean immigrants and they're Christian.
Right.
Like
It was brought over.
It can't exist without qualifiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is wild that like, yeah, if you had actors do it, then it's like, okay, they're not, nothing in the show that I heard this time. I'm sure there is some stuff, but it seems like, nothing's like outwardly hateful, even if the organization has all this stuff.
Yeah, there is a lot of, not to like trying to in that way that like people like justify loving Woody Allen movies or whatever, trying to like justify enjoying episodes of this show while knowing like the force behind it. It's that weird thing where or maybe it's even more like Weinstein stuff, where it's like, it's not like, because these are people staffed by Focus, but like they might like, to the degree to which Focus has control over the show is always unclear. Like I'm sure like they could put a stop to stuff, but I don't think they're in there in the day-to-day calling the shots on what, hey, we want to do like a demon episode because that really goes with our current agenda. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of that, but it's that balancing, like, to what extent am I comfortable enjoying this show and what it encompasses without like, while still being like, but Focus, bad.
So are a lot of them more based around these specific characters than like floating sketches?
The weirdest thing about an episode like this, especially if it's your only context for the show. So this is like, we're talking about shows within a show within a show, like at the level that we're at here. So like there's the show Adventures in Odyssey. And in Adventures in Odyssey, there's this small town. It's this small town, Odyssey, USA, vaguely like Ohio, Illinois kind of area. And there's this, old man who owns an ice cream shop, voiced by Hal Smith, who was Owl on Winnie the Pooh, so just like the calmest of voices. And kids come by and he, sends them on adventures and, talks to them about, explaining morals and whatever. And that's kind of the core of the show. But then, so in this episode, the only character from Odyssey that we hear is Connie, who is like a young, a late high school, early adult woman who works at this ice cream shop, and she hosts a radio show called Kids Radio, and this is an episode of that radio show. So we are listening to a radio show that contains only an episode of a radio show that contains 3 different sketches.
Okay.
That's not convoluted at all. I feel like that makes perfect sense.
Like, so Chris, who is our, like, the narrator of, or the person who does the outro for every episode, goes out on the note that, like, Satan's always on the prowl, so you got to use scripture to wage war with the devil. And I'm like, this is strong language for a bunch of children.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna have to bring that one up in therapy on Tuesday. I'm hearing all this stuff and I'm like, wow, I really internalized this. This one went straight to the save file and has definitely caused some problems.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're fine. It's fine.
So the other fun aspect that we get with the way this show is structured is we occasionally get discussion questions for these episodes that Focus provides.
Oh boy.
Well, because you're meant to watch them with your family.
2 of the questions are just like, hey, tell us about, what you've been reading in scripture, essentially, which is just like, describe how Jesus fought the devil. And then why it's important to memorize Bible verses. But here's the one that I think is interesting. This is question number 3, and it's the first time I've ever seen one that is multiple choice. So I'll read out all 3 of the choices. But the question is, what's the best defense against something that tempts you? A, flee from it. B, stand near the temptation to prove how strong you are. C, give in, then ask God to forgive you.
Wait. I'm not...
Well, the best defense is no defense.
Flee from it. I did that. Nothing in the episode suggested that. They didn't give me. I feel like I'd be so pissed if I got that. Clearly, it's recite the proper Bible verse.
Yeah, no.
Right. Yup.
Clearly,
this is the thing.
You just gotta memorize the relevant texts and just be able to machine gun it out whenever needed.
It's gotta be flee from it, right?
It has to be. That is also the least satisfying of the answers, where it's just so basic.
Jesus. Well, and the whole message of the episode is that, like, nothing can take you away from the love of God, and temptation is bad, but, Jesus is better and bigger and all that, and the answer here is just run. Just run away. Not run to Jesus, not run to anything else, just flee.
Just run.
Just flee.
Sorry, I know we gotta, because like I said, I'm sorry I keep finding stuff with this now. But I'm putting this in chat. Because I was curious looking at recent episodes of this, and there was one that was Voice of Freedom, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
This is a young soldier's loyalties are tested when his government and his father hunt down and arrest Christians. And the roles of the characters, they have, like, Korean names. The characters. Not
right.
necessarily. Although, so it's like Kim Sung-hoon, Ji-ho Sung-hoon, Ara Sung-hoon, and then they're voiced by Vic Chow, Andrew Kishino, and Miley Yamamoto, which all sound at least
ethnically accurate.
Yeah, they at least sound like East Asian. So,
right.
Look, if I'm not going to fault them for being on this point for being as progressive in casting as Hollywood, right? Like, Hollywood's certainly not, whatever. You can have the discussion of, like...
Hey, this is July 1st, 2021 is when it was released.
And yeah, this is recent.
So yeah, I see you have found your way on to the all-knowing AIO wiki.
Yeah, that's from the wiki. So
Someday, Andrew, maybe we'll have you back for this. There's a breakdown of characters on the show by religion on the wiki, and there are 2 characters listed as Jews. That's the specific phrasing is characters who are Jews.
Oh, okay.
And one of the characters is Jesus Christ.
Hey.
I mean, they got that part right.
And the other is Rabbi Meyer Abbott.
Rabbi Meyer
who has
Abbott.
been in 1 episode. So
There is
maybe
nothing on
someday
this
you
other
can come
than
back.
Jew. Yeah, I actually want. Okay, the painting. Let's do this sometime.
Okay.
Rabbi Meyer Abbott is one of 2,443 characters who have only appeared in 1 episode. Okay.
Really
All right,
got
Yeah,
So-
characters who are Jews. Jesus probably has a long section. Yeah. Oh, they drew him with the nose for it.
They do love to give very comical noses.
Oh man. All right. Now that we have set up a future appearance, is there any last thoughts you have before we go to plugs here, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I look forward to. I want to definitely do the Jewish episodes. Here's the problem: it's so tough to choose because there's a bajillion of these. I want to do a Jewish episode. I am also somewhat curious, morbidly, about because they don't give you like long summaries on the wiki. So I am somewhat curious.
Well, they either go plot beat for beat or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am somewhat curious about the 2-part episode with Korean characters who are hunting down Christians, which I don't
Yeah.
know. Is it big? Because like it could. I am somewhat curious for both of those. So,
Yep.
Morbid
anyway.
curiosity, perhaps, but curiosity nonetheless.
yeah. There's also what is this one? California Dreams.
Oh, that one's
Jules?
supposed to be good.
Mother arrives in Odyssey, despite putting some kind of size leaves town. Maybe for okay. I don't know. All right.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but there is also a 3-parter
Oh boy.
called One More Name, and the premise is to save Jewish children from the Nazis, a Polish social worker agrees to smuggle them out of the Warsaw Ghetto. So if you want to hear this show take on Nazi Germany,
I
in a
mean, they
three-parter-
already
That bad.
had Adolf Crumbum in this episode.
It's my favorite Rick and Morty character.
Yeah.
the icing on the cake, in my opinion, is the episode artwork is black and white with a pink article of clothing.
Amazing.
Wow.
So it's like, let's just straight up do a Schindler's List
Yeah.
reference in our aesthetic. Anyway, you were saying last thoughts, maybe?
Yeah. So I understand. And while like I said, I didn't grow up with something. I grew up with stuff that's a little bit on the perimeter that I sort of like get where it's coming from in a different way. It's definitely very interesting to see because it's interesting to me to both see how things are written for kids, because on some level I think the thing that I said a few times that sort of sticks with me is how much I weirdly related to the writers having to, I mean, it's different obviously because they presumably came to this first as people who wanted to share this and then became writers versus like we're writers who were hired to do this. But I sort of like that thing of like writing for kids, writing to deliver something like this, I can weirdly relate to getting to fit into that. And then, it is interesting to me because it's distant enough in its sort of theological and ethical assumptions that there are like some fascinating conclusions there. And also the choice of like parody again is not that different than something you'd be like, oh, you watch like Tiny Toons and it's doing like a Maltese Falcon riff where you're like, what? Or like, oh, someone's gonna be like Andy Rooney and you're like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. No, I've got a few episodes. It sounds like that piqued my interest, so we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll handle it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very I give up on that word. Considerate.
Yes. Oh, man. All right. Well, then, I'll affirm you in this is a weird episode, and it's not, like, a lot of it doesn't work, but it is, like, I am with you on appreciating, like, the constraints in which they have to operate under. In the same way that I imagine, like, writing for a TV show for, like, PBS or something, where it's all got to actually, like, where it's all got to be educational in some way, would give you, like, a similar problem, or even, you know, online. Yeah, there's a million of those kind of like, hey, this is, like, supposed to be fun and educational, and it's like that puts you in a weird spot, and they, strike an okay balance, even though a lot of the decisions are baffling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
now's your time to talk about yourself.
Yeah, it's
oh boy,
it's plug time, man.
Give me as many
You
plugs
get to
as
plug
you got.
and then...
Oh, I've got so many. I'm gonna just try and run through them quick. So it's Andrew Tavin. It's at
and we'll put links in the description.
Oh,
for
that
what
would be
it's worth
awesome.
as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah. Be sure to tag me when it goes out, and I'll
Oh yeah.
I'll retweet. At Andrew Tavin, AndrewTavin on Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok, and the AndrewTavin.com. I've got the other two podcasts. I'm the ones I host. One is TV Nopes, which is a comedic discussion of bad media criticism using a TV tropes page that shouldn't exist as a jumping off point. That recently went monthly because I also started co-hosting House of House, a house rewatch podcast with writer Lenny Burnham. That's a fun time, so check those out. I also I do stand-up. That is on, you can go to andrewtaven.com, see the dates. At QED Astoria on November 7th at 7 o'clock, I'm doing a one-man variety show called That's So Tavin. It's got stand-up, characters, a walking tour of New Orleans, 3 game shows with fabulous prizes, self-help seminar, and more. May Durand is opening. Come check that out, please. It's going to be good. And then also Sound Snacks, audio sketch show with Casey Turgson, coming out hopefully before the end of the year, maybe early next year. We will see. That's also got Griffin Newman on it, who I co-hosted Wooga with, which is how I met. I don't remember if I said this on the show or before the show, but
I think it was at the beginning
of the show. Okay, so
that was our connection point.
Yes, Griffin is going to be on that, as well as other funny comedians and people doing voices.
And you can watch old Awooga episodes on your Instagram.
Thanks to Dylan, including the first couple. I think those ones are uploaded on my IGTV, but most of the episodes are uploaded on Griffin's IGTV if you want to check those out. Yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you. I know that's a lot to to put out there.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to, yeah. I mean, you just gave us over 2 hours of time, so I think you're allowed to have a couple minutes of plugs.
Oh, thank you. That's the Tavin guarantee.
Yeah,
we'll take 2 hours of your time.
All right.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
It was a pleasure.
Absolute
All right.
delight.
And with all that being said, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Wad Fam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at wadfamchalkpod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. The Devil Made Me Do It was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Sabo, with special guest Andrew Tavin. It was edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.